Well, howdy, folks. Welcome to another episode of the Harm Reduction Report. We are on week 34 here, and I'm sitting here with
Tim Deuce right here.
a.k.a. The Deuce.
Hey, well, you can call me the Deuce. That works too.
Deuce. Timmy D. The Deuce.
I ran into some old high school friends, and they were talking about my old high school nickname.
Yeah.
And I didn't really like it, but hey,
You didn't like Deuce?
It caught on anyway. No, I just thought it was weird, right?
I thought it sounded kind of cool. Deuce.
I guess. No,
or the Deuce. The Deuce.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
That's all right. Well, yeah, we're hanging out here tonight, sitting by the river, in tribute to Willard T. Belly and Maura Wilder's check-in from the wilderness. We're out here watching the bikers bike by, watching the river flow, kind of waving our hands at some of these mosquitoes and bugs here.
Hey, that's the North Dakota life for you.
That's the North Dakota life. And it's funny because right before meeting up, I was listening to Willard T. Belly and Maura Wilder, and they were talking about all the bugs out there and watching the ladybugs dance, and they have like mosquito nets on and stuff.
Oh man!
Yeah, so I brought some bug spray just in case.
I think I'll survive. I've been doing this for too long.
In North Dakota, native born, huh?
Yeah, and speaking of North Dakota, I'm really pumped because we just gave 18,700 signatures to the North Dakota Secretary of State today to fully legalize marijuana.
Yes. So yeah, that's a great victory. It's not nearly over, but I'm glad you brought that up. That's one of the updates I wanted to include in this episode. And that's such a beautiful thing. What happens, so there was 13,500 signatures needed in order to get this matter onto the November ballot. And the people have succeeded by a long shot.
Yeah, I was really surprised at the amount of support we had, honestly. Because we're a pretty red state, and, red states usually have a little bit of hesitancy towards any type of, marijuana bill. So
anything drug-related.
Pleasantly surprised in the best way possible.
Yeah, me too. I am impressed. Even when I was out there petitioning, I guess I was denied often, which is what you would expect, but I was well-received a higher percentage of the time than I thought I was going to be. So it's really encouraging. I'm so happy to see that people are opening their minds and considering this, and we got it on the ballot.
I'm so excited. And now the next step is to just, keep pushing for that support coming into voting season, right?
Yeah.
I'm planning on having a bunch of posters put around University of North Dakota campus, trying to get some support for that, because everyone who goes to I'm a word mess today, I'm sorry. Everyone who goes to UND's campus is eligible to vote in North Dakota. And a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, but even people from out of state.
Exactly, even people from out of state vote here. They vote for our things. So I think it's going to be a good place, because there's a significant amount of people that go to UND, of course. That's a significant voting percentage.
Yep. I'm excited for you also. You'll be doing this as president of the Psychedelic Club and the Students for Sensible Drug Policy.
Thank you.
Another announcement here on the Harm Reduction Report.
All about the updates.
Yeah, Tim, stepping into president. How do you feel about that?
I'm really nervous. More for the personal aspect. I'm very, very comfortable with what I'm going to be doing with social media. I'm a computer science major, so I'm going to be talking to a lot of my computer science friends and discussing what I can do for layouts of our social medias and, regular updates on things like peer-reviewed studies, whatever may come to light. I have a bunch of peer-reviewed studies that I have saved right now, actually, and I'm probably just going to lay them out on the page once a week or so, see what happens there, see if I can garner some type of discussion. Because I think that's the end goal of what I'm trying to do here, and what this organization's end goal is to promote a discussion.
Yeah, it sounds like you're going to do a good job. You're going into it with a plan and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I was definitely nervous stepping into it as well, especially like leading and conducting those weekly meetings or the bi-weekly meetings. I wasn't exactly sure like what I would show up with and discuss. And my whole plan as president of the club was to just carry the torch and pass it to the next person. Like, I literally was not planning on doing much. But now, as you know, so many things have unfolded. Like, it's been such a beautiful opportunity, and I would have never guessed things from, like, collaborating with the Grand Forks Public Health Department and speaking publicly a couple of times and spreading the words, and all the way leading up to now a new job opportunity with Face It Together, which is an addiction management coaching
Congratulations, by the way.
Yeah, man, I'm pumped. So the point I'm trying to make is, like, you know, first of all, you're going to do great. And secondly, it's going to open up opportunities. And thirdly, if you don't do great, hold the torch and pass it to the next person.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, no pressure about it. Just kind of go with the flow.
I'm just going to do what I can. Like I said, I still have to balance studies at the same time. But I was in a fraternity, so I have a lot of connections for Greek life. So it's definitely not unheard of for me to be able to go to a bunch of fraternities and sororities and talk about this stuff too.
Yeah, man.
Hopefully get a bunch of new members and, you know, spread the message of harms reduction.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited. Isn't this nice? Isn't this nice out here? We got the river. It's funny because it's somewhere in between Willard and Mora's, like, entire engulfment in the wilderness. And here we got, like, a little bit of wilderness on that side. I can hear some birds or crickets, and then the cars going over the bridge there.
It's a beautiful sight, seeing the sunset as we're speaking right now too.
Yeah, it is.
I feel kind of bad because I only live a few blocks away from this exact spot. However, I don't come out here nearly as often as I should because it's so peaceful.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I'm definitely going to miss about North Dakota when I move away in a year when I graduate is the quietness. Yeah. Right? There's a lot of things that people hate on North Dakota for. But one of the things that you can't hate on us for is the ability to have a serene, quiet moment whenever you want it.
Yeah, you got some space in North Dakota. You have the freedom to kind of distance yourself from people if you need to, unlike being in a big, large city where there's no escaping.
We're only 20 yards away from a major bridge.
Yeah.
Yet there's still not enough traffic to distract from what's going on around me.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah, we're sitting outside, right in the middle of the city.
Mm-hmm. Right next to downtown Grand Forks.
Yeah, this is downtown Grand Forks. And we're looking at the river and recording a radio episode in peace. Yeah, bringing it home to Grand Forks here. Good old what's he, Will? GFunk. Good old GFunk.
Oh, Will and his GFunk status. Ain't that the truth? But yeah, I went to high school with Will, and that was always his thing. Always calling it GFunk.
Was there a lot of people that did that, or it was just like his thing?
He was the first one to do it, and then people just kind of caught on.
Okay, he's always setting
as we hit college, we're all just townies. We're all just townies. And I still haven't decided, and I still can't tell if that's a positive or a negative thing, but it's a thing, and I embrace it because it's definitely true. I've been born and raised here for pretty much my whole life, which is another reason why I was happy with taking the role of the Psychedelic Club Institute for Sensible Drug Policy president, because this place is close to me, right? I grew up always knowing I was going to go to UND, and I was always going to be one of the Fighting Sioux, and then the Fighting Hawk now.
Yeah. Represent,
absolutely.
Nonetheless.
Absolutely, and I'll always be proud to say that that's where I went, for my undergraduate experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm so glad I came to Grand Forks. Like my whole life just totally changed coming here. Doors opened, and relationships were made.
Oh yeah,
paths were paved. It's been an experience. Jumping back to Will and his little wilderness check-in. It was funny. Him and Mora were sort of joking / semi being serious. Like it was funny. They set up this thing and they were like really deep into their wilderness talk. And they're like, you know what? Policymakers need to come out here in the wilderness and relax and unleash, and they need to make dinner around the fire before they start talking about policy. And that was funny. I think, I can't imagine how big of a difference that would make, just being in the wilderness like that. I don't know. It was tricky. It was tricky the way they related it to the wilderness to harm reduction, but they did a really good job, and we're going to jump into that in a little bit here. We got a few more minutes of discussion left.
Absolutely.
So what else? What'd you do for the 4th? How'd you celebrate Independence Day?
I actually was working the entire day.
Ah, yes. Celebrating it with 1.5 times pay, double pay?
Normal pay.
Oh.
And in North Dakota, the tipped wage is, because I'm a bartender, I make $4.86 an hour.
Oh, darn.
And because it was dead most of the day, because no one wants to go to a bar on the 4th of July, they're out drinking on their own and shooting out fireworks and celebrating.
I went to a bar on the 4th of July.
Oh, look at you.
Yeah. Not your bar, unfortunately.
That's okay.
Oh, was it the 4th of July? No, I think it was the day after.
No, yeah, you showed up the day after I saw you, and that was a great surprise to see you.
Yeah, it was good running into you. And that's when we decided we would do this. We were like, hey, we got to meet up. Let's meet up. And,
absolutely.
Do the transition from president to president and do a radio discussion and stuff like that. So, on my 4th of July, my mom came in from Fargo. My girlfriend's mom came from Texas. As you know, you got the chance to meet her.
You got a chance to meet her and talk for a little bit.
Yeah. I don't know much. I wish I would have gotten to ask a little bit about her ideas on drug policy. I imagine, like, super red states, as you mentioned before, there's a little bit of resistance in anything drug-related and loosening up. You were saying, like, hammer, hammer, hammer. Anyone... oh, no, that was Will. That was Will.
Don't put words in my mouth now. Okay.
That was Will in the wilderness discussion. Talking about how in red states there tends to be this idea, like, just get tough on drug users, just hammer it out, just really just swat it down as he was swatting the mosquitoes, and that hasn't... I'm excited to see the shift here in North Dakota.
I am too, and I'm very surprised because my dad comes from Texas, deep red state, moved up here, a red state. However, he has told me that he is in support of legalization.
Yeah, isn't that funny?
And that's very interesting to me, and I haven't had the chance to talk to him about why. I briefly mentioned it a couple weeks ago, and he said, well, it's good for people with cancer.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, that alone.
And that was his only point, but if he accepts that and he votes for it, then that's wonderful for me.
Yeah.
I know, many other reasons, and I wanted to sit down and discuss it with him. Unfortunately, he had to go back to work, as, your parents tend to do.
Yeah.
Right? But I'm excited to open up a conversation with him in the future and talk about how he might be able to help this effort of education and the future endeavors of what this organization is going to become.
Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to in large part is education. There's so many misconceptions about drugs and about cannabis and marijuana that I think it does. It comes down in great part to education. We need to really sincerely educate about cannabis.
And I want to take the moment and say I think we need to sincerely educate about all drugs at that.
Yeah.
Even legal drugs.
Yes,
I'm
absolutely.
surprised at the amount of people. All right, spoiler alert. My fiance's birthday is coming up on Friday. And for her birthday, I purchased her an absinthe fountain.
Okay.
And a couple bottles of high-quality absinthe.
Oh, interesting.
And I'm so surprised at the amount of people who, when I say that, say, oh my God, how did you get that? Absinthe really makes you trip. And that's not true at all.
Right, yeah. What I have read, so what I've read about absinthe is that it has some wormwood, which is maybe partly responsible for some of the psychotropic effects that people have mythologically reported. But then I've also read that it depends on the season of the harvest of the wormwood. But yeah, if it's legally vended, there is not going to be...
Right, and don't get me wrong, there is a concentration of a drug that will make you have symptoms similar to a hallucination.
Okay,
however, in concentration of the bottle, and these bottles of absinthe are anywhere from 50 to 75% alcohol. You would die from alcohol poisoning far before you would reach any type of threshold for a psychedelic effect.
So the psychedelic portion of absinthe is so diluted.
Correct.
In a similar way to hemp has such
Correct.
a
And
minute
I believe it's thujone that's in
thujone,
it, which causes the
yeah.
hallucination effects if you had enough of it, which once again you cannot.
Yeah. I did some ridiculous experiments as a kid with thujone and wormwood and absinthe.
Really?
Yeah, just being reckless, I wish I would have known more. Wish I would have had a little more sense. I wish I would have been able to talk to people openly about drugs. That would have made the difference.
That's a big thing, too. My parents were really, really on the forefront of telling me not to do drugs, don't do drugs, but they never really discussed why.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we have to discuss why. We have to discuss why you shouldn't do drugs, maybe why some people do. And when you say drugs, there was trouble for me as a kid because I recognized caffeine as a drug.
I did as well.
And so hearing people say don't do drugs and watching people drink alcohol and take caffeine and take antidepressants and, whatever, getting tipsy and stuff, it didn't make sense to me. It seemed like hypocrisy. I didn't have the education.
That's fair. I agree. I mean, it was really weird for me as a kid, having everyone say, don't do drugs. And I don't remember how I got it, but I did recognize, aspirin as a drug, which it is. Yeah. Caffeine as a drug, which was, to me, it was like coffee. Coffee's the drug, but it was the caffeine in it, right?
Right.
And I saw so many people around me saying, don't get addicted to drugs, it's bad. However, I also saw those same people say, oh my God, I can't wake up without my cup of coffee.
I have a headache.
I have a caffeine headache.
Yeah.
I haven't had my Mountain Dew for the day. I haven't had my third can of Coke, and it's 6 p.m.
Yeah. So
it was very interesting.
Addiction really is everywhere in the world. I mean, you see it I see it permeate my experience. You hear about, anything you do is sort of to satisfy an itch. Really. And when you begin to do things habitually, I don't know, like waking up and working, saving money and stuff, I almost recognize some of those behavioral patterns as addiction even. And it can be helpful, it can be constructive to develop an addiction, a balanced addiction, a healthy addiction to certain things like exercising. You've been running for the last week, and you feel good, you feel energetic, and you realize I have to do it to feel well. I have to work out to feel good. I essentially have an addiction to running. If I don't run, but for me, not running, for me, it's different types of exercise. But, if I don't run, then I have sort of a bad mood, less of a good mood. I don't feel as good. I can't perform as well. And that is exactly what happens with an opioid addiction. With my opioid addiction, I could not perform unless I had my opioids filling those receptors.
Right.
So my addiction has really helped me kind of see behavior as a physiological function.
Wow. Okay.
Sort of robotic almost. I don't know, machinery. But still, of course, having some sort of mystic component to it. So, yeah, where do we go from here?
Well, one thing I want to know is in a lot of states that I've seen any type of marijuana bill go to vote is what the pushback is going to be. You see a lot of places, religious institutions such as the Mormons in Utah started taking out anti-marijuana ads.
Okay.
And I'm very interested to see if that's going to happen here. If I'm going to see an anti-marijuana ad somewhere in North Dakota before it comes to vote.
I imagine that we absolutely will, yeah.
I didn't see any for the legalization of medicinal marijuana here. There were things for everything else. The 100% tobacco tax was the biggest one by far. Every probably third billboard that was for politics in at least my town, that's all I saw was vote no on the tax. Vote no on the tax.
I don't understand. Tobacco is bad all around. It doesn't offer anybody this, I don't know, it doesn't offer anybody anything really except disease and unwellness, but nobody's fighting to get it made illegal. Nobody's outraged that this tobacco, this devil's lettuce tobacco version is legal, I don't understand.
You think some of that's tradition though? It doesn't have to be healthy to be legal, right? Alcohol's not healthy. I would never I'm not a medical professional, full disclosure.
Right.
But I would never advocate for someone to drink alcohol and, be like, you'll feel better, you'll be better, right? Yeah. But I also wouldn't take that away from them. I give them their full choice to control what goes into their own body.
Yeah, that's the way I think it should be for everything. I mean, at least for cannabis. We're talking about cannabis right now. I like the way my dad framed it. I had never heard it put this way, but he really did a good job mentioning, like, tobacco isn't good. It's not good for you. It's not going to help you.
Right.
But there's no reason that we should make tobacco illegal and see people get locked up for using it.
That is also fair.
That's I really like that. When he said that to me, I had kind of an epiphany moment. Like, yeah, totally. By criminalizing tobacco, we're not helping anybody. We wouldn't be helping anybody, I don't think. We'd be...
The only argument I could come up with off the top of my head is, that kid that was going to smoke it and get addicted isn't now because it's illegal. But
maybe
that could be a very weak argument if you delve into it.
Well, maybe it's...
Like I said, just the top of my head.
Maybe there is some validity to that. I mean, if tobacco wasn't so readily available in gas stations, would as many minors start smoking it? I don't know. And that parallels the argument about states that have legal if we legalize cannabis here, are more minors going to be getting their hands on it?
What are the statistics in Colorado?
I don't know exactly.
Right? If I remember correctly, I think that the amount of minors who smoked marijuana after legalization has gone down.
Okay. That was kind of what my hypothesis was, mostly because of how I have understood gateway theory. Like, when you go into a liquor store, your ID is checked, so they're not going to be selling to a minor.
Right.
And then when you go into the liquor store, there's no risk of being exposed to, there's no gateway theory because you're not going to be getting cannabis on the shelves, or ecstasy isn't going to be on the shelves next to the alcohol.
Right.
So thereby, alcohol is not a gateway drug. If you take cannabis away from there, is cannabis going to be a gateway drug anymore? Probably not.
Right.
Yeah. There's a lot. There's a lot to work through. There's definitely going to be hurdles. I respect that. I respect that there will be hurdles to overcome.
But that is the cost of social progress at the same time. Nothing's going to be perfect. I'm at a conversation with my coworker about this today. We have opposite political viewpoints. However, we came to the middle ground of saying that whatever we're trying to accomplish, we can't say, okay, this is what we want, and snap our fingers, and there it is. It takes time and steps, because to get to step C, you need to get to step B, and before you get to step B, you need to get to step A, and before you get to step A, you need to think of what step A is even going to be.
Exactly. So step A in this case is get cannabis legalized.
Vote yes.
Vote yes.
In North Dakota.
Vote yes in North Dakota to legalize in November. Anyone interested in making any donations can join the Facebook group ND Legalize or the North Dakota Legalization Initiative, and reach out over those Facebook groups. I hope that everybody had a beautiful 4th of July. The Deuce, Mr. Deuce, Mr. Timmy D, I want to thank you for being here on this 4th of July episode, which we didn't really theme it as 4th of July super duper, but
we talked about it. That's enough.
Yeah, we talked about it. We had a good time, and thanks for being here, hanging out by the river.
Absolutely.
I hope everybody is having a beautiful day, and everybody take care. Thanks for tuning in. Goodbye. And here we'll turn it over to Willard T. Belly and Maura Wilder.
Hey, Maura.
Hey, Willard.
It's the Harm Reduction Report, and we are in the wilderness. How does it feel?
So lovely.
Maura and I hung out with your pal Cal, who you just heard from, who we miss dearly, for he is not in the wilderness with us. We all hung out together in Baltimore at the Students for Sensible Drug Policy Conference, which we attended and met a bunch of friends at, and we've talked about a lot on the show. It's nice because we're going to be returning to Grand Forks next week, and we'll be reunited with our pal Cal once more. I think it's funny because the first several times I brought up my friend Cal, I kept referring to him as my friend Cal.
But he's our friend Cal now.
Getting that you met him already. Yeah. So I'm happy to be chatting. The last few segments on the show, my involvement from the wilderness has been trying to make the connection perhaps between, well, what does the wilderness have to do with harm reduction? Mm-hmm. And last time we shared all those quotes. We read the quotes from a bunch of our harm reduction people we've talked about on the show before, and a bunch of the quotes from our wildlifer heroes out here. And then, played the little game of trying to make you all guess who was saying what, because sometimes it was hard to tell, actually. The wilderness seems to have to do a lot with the harm that we are navigating through. In the wild, there are all these things. So we were trying to figure out, what does wilderness mean? And, Maura Wilder, what is your definition of wilderness? Did you have one before you came out here to the wilderness this summer?
It's kind of funny. I never really referred to my excursions into nature as going into the wilderness. I always just I love nature. I'm going out into nature. I really need some nature. And so that's a different kind of term for me, I guess. I like using it out here because it feels like we're so steeped in wilderness. It feels wild. It doesn't feel like a cultivated kind of nature. Like nature could be cultivated plants, things like that, at least in my mind. Mm-hmm. And it's nice that in this wilderness, aside from the bugs, there's not a whole lot holding you back from just tromping through the woods. There's no poison oak or ivy, really, that we've found. And so you can just find some new wilderness at the drop of a hat.
Yeah.
But the other day, I did look up wilderness online, which I thought was really funny because no one seems to agree. None of the dictionaries don't, and it seems like an odd definition.
I don't know if even our wilderness heroes we were reading about would
know
really
how to define it. Yeah.
Perhaps the harm reduction people wouldn't really know how to define truly the harm we're talking about either. Mm. What did you find? What was the first definition you found online?
First definition, thanks to Google, is an uncultivated, uninhabited, and inhospitable region.
That's wilderness?
Yeah, inhospitable.
Wow.
I tend to disagree.
Uninhabited by humans seems...
Well, it just says uninhabited, which is funny, because we just assume that, if there's no humans there, it's uninhabited.
Right. Usually, wilderness, I think of lots of living things, mm-hmm. wild.
Tons of living things. Only living things, right. No dead buildings and things like that.
Would you call a completely vacant, lifeless place wilderness?
Like the moon? What do you mean?
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
Lifeless.
I can't think like a desert or something.
That's not lifeless?
Well, certain areas of the desert where there's truly nothing living, maybe, or...
Antarctica. Well, there's penguins.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to talk to Will Steger about this.
Uh-huh.
He's a polar explorer, and he, just this spring, was gone on a solo expedition through the Arctic, which I feel like if anything's wild, that area is. But
it's uninhabited and possibly inhospitable to humans for the most part.
Yeah, I guess so.
But there are humans out there surviving for thousands of years.
Yeah,
just not a lot of them.
But I think the one that I liked, let's see if I can find it. The one I liked the most, I think it had something to do with mammals.
More wilderness definitions?
Yeah, another... Oh, remember the bewildering situation. Wild or uncultivated state is another one. A tract or region uncultivated and uninhabited by human beings.
Uncultivated.
And once again, the uninhabited thing.
That sounds good, uncultivated. But what does cultivated really mean? Influenced by humans to achieve a specific design purpose? If that's what cultivated means, then I guess, wilderness seems uninfluenced by humans in a dramatic way, I guess. Mm-hmm. But it's weird that we have to disqualify ourselves.
As not being, we're not part of the wilderness in most definitions.
Because we are natural creatures, just as everything else is.
But apparently we make things that are quote-unquote unnatural.
We change things more so faster in, bigger ways than other species.
Than a nest by a bird or a dam from a beaver.
Yeah. Huh. Well, it's funny. Those words seem negative. Wilderness is bad almost.
Wilderness?
Those definitions, don't you think?
Inhospitable especially. That's the harshest one.
There's something, I guess, you think about Moses leading people out of the wilderness. It's out of the wastelands.
But they were going to the promised land, which is probably a wilderness before they got there.
Yeah. So why do we call the the middle ground, the inhospitable place wilderness. That's funny, yeah. Being out here, wilderness has sort of a positive connotation.
It definitely does.
It seems healing to me. So we just had a bunch of visiting guests out here at our cabin in the wilderness, and I was truly astonished at what it seemed to do to them. The healing that they all seemed to go through in their 2-week stay here. Some of our friends had been incarcerated. Some were recently living in poverty. Some have addiction issues or have had addiction issues. And, normal human problems of all kinds. Some a little more extreme than others, maybe. But they all seem to experience some healing out here in the wilderness.
Even the ones who initially said that the wilderness was not their place to be, who said they're more city people, even those people had a transformation and had a new appreciation for this wildness.
I wonder if it meant more to them who would consider themselves city people to have this 2-week wilderness experience. Some of our friends, one in particular said he had been camping before, but it was 15 years ago when he was really little, and he had never gone since. And what it meant to him, well, it said it meant a lot to him, I guess. Would it have meant more to him if he had never seen the wilderness before? I wonder.
I don't know. This place is pretty astonishing, whether or not you've seen nature or you've been in nature before. Or even this place. I mean, you reading Sigurd Olsen, obviously he never got tired of it, of the beauty and wonder of the North Woods.
Good old Sig.
And I remember someone else talking about how, who was it? I'm not sure, but they would make do by coming up north for a few weeks when they were younger, and they'd be renewed each time they went, but then eventually they just had to move up here because this was the place that they felt most healthy and whole. I'm not sure who that was, but...
Healthy and whole. Healthy and whole. What is it? I think there is a healing nature to this. Well, take our other friend, for example, who had just moved to the United States from East Africa, and he had been here for 3 years, and he said in that time he had not allowed his mind to take a break. He said to ease his mind, to give his mind rest. But when he came out here, the 2 weeks, he had his phone turned off the whole time, and he said that was... He said he discovered a new side of America. But what's interesting is that he grew up in wilderness places, in community settings like the one we have here, and so he said he was used to that. Unlike our other friend who had never done this before ever. He said he was used to it, but just in the last 3 years he had deprived himself of it by since he had gotten here.
So maybe there's a cultural component to our ideas of wilderness. There certainly has to be. I'm sure there are different considerations everywhere.
Yeah. But they each got something out of it. The one who was used to this sort of place and the one who wasn't. They had both had the commonality of being away for a while, at least a little while. And it was enough to cause the benefit when they were back in it. So that's very interesting.
It'd be interesting to talk to them in a couple weeks, or maybe even just soon, to see how the transition back has been, see if anything's stuck or changed.
What things are you again taking for granted that you forgot about out here? Well, I don't know. We've been trying to figure out why the wilderness has this effect on people. And I'm not sure yet. It must have something to do with the fact that our whole, history, our ancestry, going all the way to the very beginning, people lived outside.
I think it also has to do with being surrounded by so many living things, like animals, plants, things like that. There's everywhere you look, there's life, and it just makes you realize how much life there is and has been, and it's just kind of overwhelming, but in a really cool way.
Finding ways to reduce harm to ourselves being out here, thinking about bears or thinking about, is this tree going to fall on me in the wind tonight?
Should I wear my bug net when I go down by the lake?
That's very helpful for thinking of harm reduction. And I think of my friends out here, and I do nice things for them to make sure that the harm has been reduced for them. I'll bring them water or...
lend them a tent.
Yeah, right. That's all fine and good. But being around the other species, like you say, that brings it to a new level. Mm-hmm. Just a couple nights ago, I walked out of the cabin and had my headlamp on. It was super dark. And there was a huge spider web hanging up. I couldn't believe it. It was on the ground up to this branch, like 9 feet in the air. A huge, massive web that was just created. Like, it was not there a few hours before. And massive spider in it, like half the size of my hand, maybe like 2/3 the size of your hand. Big. And there it was, and I just stood there looking at it for a minute, and I realized, like, if I didn't have my headlamp on, I would have walked right through its net and probably got a huge spider on my face, but definitely ruined this little guy's web, and bummer. So, but I noticed it, and I walked around it, and actually while I was looking at it with the light, it attracted some moths that went immediately into the net, and the spider got them, wrapped them up, saved them for later. That was kind of cool. And I guess, sorry for the moths maybe, but, this...
You really, actually, you become more aware of the circle of life, I guess, out here. And it does sometimes give you a closeness to death, which is a good thing to consider. Like the cat nearby here.
Home of the cat.
Yep, brought home a little bunny, which was super, super sad, but it also just is a moment for thinking about, life doesn't go on forever.
There's a big husky living here, and you heard that down by the lake the other day he ate a whole turtle.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was just staring at a turtle the other day. We were having a moment together. That one was really big, though. I don't think he was Jasper's snack.
No. But yeah, I want to reduce the harm for this little spider when I saw it. And I wanted to, even for the husky. Like, it was eating our scraps last night, and was he going to choke on those chicken bones or not? I don't know. I guess there's all kinds of little lessons to be learned out here. But maybe the weirdest ones come from species beyond mammals. I mean, relating to a spider is not easy to do, so I was sort of surprised I had that moment. And even a turtle. Birds are also tough. Sort of.
Easy to relate to a small, cute little bunny.
Yes. Yeah. The little mammals. But think about other things we found out here. Trees.
Yeah.
We've cut down tons of trees. This is part of our work out here. The overabundant
forest management.
Balsam trees we have to go. So we're taking out these certain trees and, living thing, huge living thing, have been there for 20 years or something. And we just zoop. That's a kind of a strange concept too. Yeah,
and the ones that fell down naturally in the windstorms, these huge, enormous, just like 2.5 feet around or at diameter of these trees that end up being turned into lumber on site, and then we humans use them to build things to live in. It's just crazy to just see that process up close.
And the care that goes into it, even the felling of the tree, and the care that goes into putting all the boards right in place. So we had a new batch of friends arrive today, and they are sleeping in the structure that we built with the trees that had fallen down in the storm. And hopefully
allowing new people to experience the wilderness. So
hopefully we built it so it'll stand, so that the harm is reduced for them being there. But it's a personal effect. There's a personal effect that each of us have out here. I think it's different at different times and in different parts of the wilderness. So I grew up in good old GFunk, North Dakota, of course, and where my access to nature was very limited. And for a lot of people who go fishing and who go hunting in North Dakota and in Minnesota, they get it. They get the wilderness experience. I didn't have a lot of that growing up, and so I almost feel like I had very little connection to the wilderness growing up. But now that I do know how to appreciate it back home, it's really nice for me. And I go to Turtle River State Park, and I go to Medora, and I go to Double Ditch in near Bismarck, north of Bismarck. Those are all wonderful places. Oakville Prairie, just west of GFunk, lovely. And somehow it replenishes my personal spirit. There's certain other personal wildernesses where I feel different things there. I don't often feel this like really passionate excitement when I'm back home on the prairie, even in the preserved pieces of it, as I do say on top of Rocky Mountain National Park. That gives me a different feeling, and the wilderness is different there for me, and I get a different healing benefit from it.
Yeah.
You're not used to this wilderness.
No, not at all. I grew up in a small town on the central coast of California, San Luis Obispo, and I was super lucky. It's a rural area, so pretty much everyone has access to nature. It's in and around some hills, mountains, somewhat near the coast. So getting out into the wilderness wasn't hard, even for people of any economic disposition. So that was really wonderful. I was steeped in nature as I was growing up, and I didn't realize how lucky I was until I moved across the country to Baltimore and spent 4 years in a big city, which was a bit of a shock. But yeah, you do have different feelings in different nature, even back home, like being on top of one of those hills or being next to the ocean, or I don't know, you get different sensations, different, healing feelings from that. But I know that it was a super valuable resource for me in high school whenever I was feeling overwhelmed, just needed to get away, get a break, needed to think or not think. I would just go hike a mountain or go look at the ocean, something that makes you feel small and gives you this perspective of, maybe my problems that I think matter so much don't matter as much as I think they do. But not everyone has that, and so that's an important thing for me to realize. That was important for me to realize, but I never felt so safe in the wilderness as I do up here, which is kind of funny. Like safe. You always had to be wary for poison oak, for mountain lions, for bears, for different. I don't know. There were a lot more potential harms in the area. Here, I feel like I'm walking around barefoot all the time. I am trampling through all sorts of plants. I have no idea what they are. And I haven't gotten any weird rashes, just the bugs. The only menacing part is the bugs.
There's a lot of those.
But I feel like even at night, I'm trampling through the woods barefoot, and I feel safe. It's just it feels wild, but it feels natural, but I don't know what it is. It feels like a comfortable wilderness where I don't have to be super wary of the plants or big mammals around here.
Yeah. Well, even in your little parks in Baltimore, you said you saw wolves once. They
might have been coyotes, they were...
Coyotes.
Yeah, I think they were small wolves, but I don't know for sure. I didn't identify them. But yeah, and you see bucks and deer in some of these wild spaces in the middle of a city. It's crazy. I guess they just lived there, and then we moved in around them, so we're kind of in their territory.
Did it have the same effect then of feeling small and putting your problems in perspective in those wildernesses, or were you in a different state, so it gave you a different benefit? I
think it still gave me a version of that. I think really seeing... One time I was on a run, and we were going behind Druid Hill Park, which is like a man-made lake, and they have this kind of natural preserve-ish area. I don't know how natural it really is. But, and I was going on a run, and I was just like, finally, for once, I couldn't really hear cars. I couldn't really hear the man-made stuff around me. And I saw a buck just like in between the trees, and I just stared at it, like stopped running and stared at it for a while. And that gives you a feeling of, wow, like all these other living things in the world, and it does give you a sense of awe, even if it's just one creature, one living, breathing creature, its heart beating. You can just imagine its experience for a moment.
And I would think the surprise would be bigger in a situation.
Yeah, I was like, "What are you doing here?" Oh my gosh, it was a total shock. Because I was a little bit further away from the city sounds, but I could have run 200 yards and hit a building easy. Like it was wild.
Wild.
It was wild. It was a little piece of wilderness, and I was lucky at least that Baltimore is a city with a lot of nice green spaces scattered throughout the city, and even one creek that goes through most of it called Stony Run, where you can run alongside it. You can walk in the creek. I don't know if you want to walk in the creek, but you can at least explore nearby and get a sensation of just being surrounded by life, by a lot of life that isn't human life. So that was definitely really helpful in transitioning to living there. But yeah, it definitely is a different sensation.
A dose of the diversity, maybe.
Yeah.
It just is good for us, partly, being out here.
There's more than just ourselves and our human things.
Yeah. It's funny, just with the bugs. Some of these bugs, I kill them instantly.
Yeah, without a second thought.
I thought about it, and I now am in this relationship with mosquitoes where I just kill them all, always. Like, if they're on me, I kill them, right? If they're near me, kill them. That is something I grew up with, and I think that's reasonable because they carry disease and they could kill me. And just think about the amount of harm that would be caused if I contract West Nile out here. Like, my family would be sad, I would be sad, that would suck.
You might get other people sick. Can you get other people sick? I don't know how that works.
I don't really think so.
Okay,
it's not contagious, but...
Okay, got you. Yeah. But still, a lot of sadness.
Yeah.
A lot of sadness. Yeah. Heart harm.
Right. And so if the harm of killing a little bug... that far underweighs the harm of anybody I know getting sick.
At least according to it, yeah.
Right, yeah.
Not according to the mosquito.
But there are these other bugs out here that I realize are not dangerous. Mm-hmm. And even though they're walking on me and maybe it's annoying a little bit, sometimes it's okay to let them be.
Yeah, I'm still learning about all of these lovely biting bugs out here. Before I got here, I thought the only things that bit were mosquitoes, but no, there's horseflies and deer flies and black flies and no-see-ums. A whole wealth. Oh man,
that's something weird. Wow, that's new to me out here too.
Yeah. But so I got to a point where I just kind of assumed everything would bite me, especially all flies. But one of my friends up here was like, "Oh, but the flies with like 3 gray stripes on their back, those are the nice ones. They're not going to bite you. They're just hanging out." And it really changed my perspective on them. I was just pretty much killing anything that landed on me because I assumed it was going to bite me. But then now I check. Now I like, wait a second. I'm like, wait, that's a nice fly.
You remember that fly today?
Yeah.
That was the weirdest fly I've ever seen.
Ever.
It wasn't afraid of you at all.
No, I could like move around near it, like it would crawl on my hands. It wasn't flying away.
You're petting it with your hand.
Yeah, it was super weird. I was more kind of a little bit smushing it, kind of. But it wouldn't care.
Yeah.
It was so weird.
That's strange. I thought there was something wrong with it, but I'm pretty sure another one came. It was the same type, and it acted the same way, right?
Yeah, I think that type of fly just doesn't mind. And made me not want to kill it, honestly. I don't think I didn't kill it.
Right, no, you didn't. And that was nice. We got to learn something from it.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if this is a stretch, but think of the metaphor there of our reaction to want to solve the drug crisis is slap it, kill it, kill it, kill it, kill it. Put it down in every single way. Kill every bug that comes near me. Throw everyone in jail. But maybe if we are able to hold back on that and balance our
and have a consideration and not just have one size fits all treatment for everything.
Right. We don't want to get
harsh treatment.
Maybe we should slap the bug. We don't want our country, our community to fall apart. So we don't want anybody to be abusing drugs. But there are things to be gained from not just smashing every single bug that comes by. And with a little bit of mindfulness, you can educate yourself to know which ones to slap and which ones not.
Mm-hmm. And which ones to just let, coexist with you. It's kind of nice. I really like the 3 gray striped ones, which is funny. I never thought I'd like a fly.
Yeah.
But, like, if they land on me, like, oh, you're the nice one, and I let them just cruise around and just kind of taste me or whatever they're doing.
Yeah, what are they doing?
I don't know.
But they're not hurting me.
No.
And maybe they're actually giving me something.
Who knows?
And just by enjoying their little presence and looking at them up close and finding out that it's not what you thought, that this little fly is pretty beautiful. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's part of the benefit right there. Mm-hmm. Just being in relation with a little beautiful living thing.
Do you remember, let's see, what bug was that on the beach in Tahoe? It was a ladybug.
Oh,
Ladybugs.
Yeah.
We got to stare at ladybugs for a while, and it was unbelievable. Their behavior was so unexpected. They were basically kind of like dancing and warming in the sun. I had never been that... I don't know, I'd never paid that much attention to a bug before.
They landed right on us or crawled up on us, and then just started fanning out their
wings and looking for sun and staying there, and then bending their abdomen. It was crazy. It was crazy.
And then we walked away and we said, wow, those are the best ladybugs ever. And then we looked back and there's like a grackle going by, probably just eating them all up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But then we realized we probably smushed a few of them when we were walking along the shore.
Yes. Maybe the grackle was eating those ones.
Yeah, hopefully.
You were making me think about access to the wilderness.
Yeah.
Some people have it, some people don't have it. Mm-hmm. Our friends who are visiting right now, most of them have not had it, and most of them, I bet you, by the end of the next 2 weeks, are going to feel like they've had it now, and that they're going to all be healed or at least enjoyed themselves in some magical way, just like our last group of friends. Mm-hmm. That's cool. Cal and I were very lucky in that we had access to go to the Students for Sensible Drug Policy conference together. And maybe that's also something that people don't have access to. Groups of people, communities where stuff is going on and where like you can learn something, and where people are empowering you to have a certain experience. I would have missed out a lot if we hadn't had the chance to go to that conference.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know I would have missed out a lot if I had not had the chance to be out here in the wilderness. Is there a metaphor worth making between these? Or is it just a simple point about doing all we can to bring people together, in the middle of the city to deal with all these policy problems, and also out here in the wilderness where I haven't looked at my phone or the news since I got here at all. I don't know what drug policies have changed since I've come out here. And
that's a luxury that we have right now. I would say.
Cal just told me that there are finally enough signatures on the petition to put recreational marijuana on the ballot in North Dakota in November. I think they are going through some legal somethings or whatevers to confirm that
somethings or whatever. Yes, of course.
Yes.
That's the technical term.
Yeah. And that's the one piece of news I've gotten out here.
Mm-hmm. I've heard about Supreme Court stuff, and I get some updates from my sister, but
okay.
But we are lucky to not have to. I don't know.
It's like we need both of these times. We need the times where we're lobbying in D.C. with our friends, and also where we're sitting on a lake, thinking about nobody else other than our friends.
In the trees.
There's got to be a balance here.
Yeah.
Somehow they go together.
Well, that's kind of... They definitely could go together. Maybe talking about policy in the wilderness.
Right. Imagine bringing policymakers out into the wilderness.
Yep. And you have to sit around a campfire and make your meal together, and then you talk about policy.
Yes. Not so much in the sessions where you think you're going to get all the important stuff out. I mean, all those conferences I've ever been to, they're wonderful. Mm-hmm. And I love the content, but by far the most meaningful relationships that have come out of such a thing come outside the conference itself, on the off hours. And maybe that's what we need to do, bring people out here where it's
you can have those off hours together.
Off hours, yeah.
You know, like, I don't know if Congress is hanging out on the weekends and canoeing.
Wow.
Maybe it would help if they did.
Everybody gets assigned a canoe and a canoe buddy of the opposite party.
Yeah. You gotta work it out if you're going anywhere.
Yes. You gotta get across the portage together and get to the end of the lake.
Wow. That could go really good or really bad.
Yes, well.
I think maybe it could go really good.
I think it could too. Stories of other groups of friends being out here, they started out having problems. Like fighting almost.
Yeah,
and end as friends.
The next day even.
Having accomplished something and,
and built something together.
Wilderness. What is it about the wilderness? See, all these definitions about the wilderness, none of them said anything about a place to learn. And our friend, who just wrote a song about the wilderness, said it's where you go to learn.
Yeah.
So,
Maybe we should consider bringing another one of our friends on who's interested in studying psychology and doing research on how wilderness and nature actually affects your mind, affects your brain, and is there an effect? What does it look like? Is it actually a chemical effect, or I don't know. What is it? And so it would be really cool to talk to her. I know she's in the early stages of this, but
let's bring her on to brainstorm.
But that's how complex this is. Like, we're spitballing about what maybe it does, but maybe it needs years of research. Who knows?
Yeah. And isn't that funny? How have we forgotten so quickly that now we need years of research to
figure out
again
that wilderness is good for you?
Indeed, we are meant to be outside.
Wow. Yeah, it feels... I don't think I need research to know that I need to be outside. But it would be cool to know if there's something interesting going on in my brain when it happens.
We've got more friends out here that we are going to be interviewing over the next couple weeks. 2, 3, 4, 5-ish weeks in the wilderness. That's a great idea. Let's get our first friend on next time. And we're going to be in GFunk soon, Maura and I, to hang out with you, your pal Cal, who I'm sending this clip to right now from the wilderness. So to everybody in good old GFunk, watch out. We're coming. I can't wait to see you again. That goes for you too, Cal, and everyone else. So thank you. And let's do it again sometime.
Sandbag on.
Sandbag on.
I want to take a quick minute, thank everyone for tuning in, and just add that quick disclaimer that the views and opinions expressed in this week's episode of the Harm Reduction Report do not express the views and opinions of anybody else associated with the radio station. We're just a few people trying to get the conversation going, keep it going about drug policy, and talk about what kind of drug policy makes sense. Big shout out to the guys over at the radio station. Thanks for giving us this awesome opportunity to hang out and chat and spread some perspective and give us a platform to have that dialogue. We really appreciate it. So thanks again everybody for tuning in, and everybody have a beautiful day. Sandbag on.